So we should be able to boot up, we should be able to play. I changed some of this user ID crap in here, and I'm trying to think if the user ID changes screwed up bots or not. I don't know. Our player creation is a goddamn mess. So it always happens though. Like the first thing you start off with turns into some crazy, ridiculous thing. And as a result, you get all these crazy things going on. Like, I remember Dragon Age Legends when we first set that thing up. Goddamn train wreck in terms of how everything worked. Like, the most awful thing was the account creation. Because it was such a, just a disaster. Because we had a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing. So in order to create an account, like, literally the guy who wrote it put the it would just make a random long, and then it would try to create an account with that ID in the database. And if it failed, because there was already an account of that number, it would just keep rolling. It was just, it's just like, God, what the fuck? And that was like the tip of the iceberg. There were like 20 other things that were screwed up in there. All of them progressively worse. So let's build this thing, let's run it, see how it goes. What we want to see is, I need to double check that bots aren't all screwed to hell. I need to implement touch attempts. So whenever you start an attack, it needs to broadcast a touch attempt for that user. So that needs to go through the player state. I should just go ahead and start by implementing that. So player state. Alright, so we'll get the touch attempt stuff going as well. And these should be in game options, right? Where is this guy? It's in game data? This could be a bit of a problem. Actually, no, it shouldn't be. We should pass the information along in case we actually need the touch attempt type later. So let's just go ahead and do that. Alright, let's see how it goes. I can see the accuracy kind of being just washed the hell out. Like, you play some matches and it'll just, accuracy goes to shit. So it'll be interesting to see just how bad it is. I bet it's just going to be like 1%. So let's build it up. So we'll see. It's kind of a low-key sort of thing today, I believe, since it's just a lot of hooking up systems that don't do anything visual. And the exciting things will happen later. I don't know. Stats are one of those things that are incredibly important, incredibly boring, but are incredibly valuable later, because it's like it's all this information and all this crazy shit put all together, and it's this huge monstrous thing, and at the end you got one number, you know, like your win-loss ratio and or your score or whatever. And it's one of those things. And it's a lot of data too. Like it's a lot of information in the database to keep track of. It's always just funny. We just want a high score table of the top 10. And you're like, well, sometimes that can be a whole monster to actually implement. Because not only does the database have to support it, you need to have the right stuff, you need to have all the sorting, and then you need to have everything on the front end, you need to have it all hooked up, authenticated, whatever. It's a thing. Most definitely a thing. And we need to actually log in order to report our stats. And we need to run our server to record it. So let's run that. What Linux distros have I tried? Well, on Amazon we run Amazon Linux, which is based off of kind of an RHEL 5 or 6 sort of distro. At Amazon, a lot of Amazon's internal stuff is actually still RHEL 5 internally, so I've had to deal with that crap. We use CentOS 7 on our game servers in Rackspace, and I've used Fedora and some of those for some other Linux stuff before. Alright, so we haven't screwed up bots, so that's good. Let's get rid of you. Let's lose the match. Call to report stats. Alright, so let's go see what stats we actually got. Let's delete everything. And we've got all these guys. So let's just clear everything out. And let's play another game. Oh yeah, we need to do the touch attempts. So that's going to be in the player controller? No, not the player controller, but the... Yes, actually in the player controller is where you should put this. It should be on the server. Alright, so get level shims, ground pound ball. Record ball touch, record ball touch. No, this is... Okay, this is interesting. So... Anyone favorite? Well, my favorite version of Linux is the one that you've got that currently works. I'm a fan of... I think CentOS is probably the best one to roll with right now. It's up to date. It's got a lot of standards. It works. Good to go. All of them pretty much have their own thing, but some of them have updated things that you might want. Like I think Fedora is like farther ahead in terms of experimental features, so you might have more control over automated stuff. But if you want just something well supported, everybody knows, you can always Google for help with CentOS or Red Hat. And CentOS and Red Hat are pretty much the same thing, but I think you have to pay for Red Hat or whatever the hell. So I would just run with CentOS unless you want like a desktop experience, in which case I have no freaking idea. I don't use desktops with Linux, so I think that's more like Ubuntu or whatever the fuck. But so if I'm running servers, I'm trying to do Amazon Linux or CentOS. And that's mainly personal preference and familiarity with how to actually get stuff up and running and off the ground. And I have not had any horrible issues with either, though I have had issues with Amazon Linux back at EA2D. We had some kernel issues with IO locking back in 2012, which were a real bitch to track down. Basically where the server would just go into IO lock and we'd have absolutely no idea why it would happen. But we haven't seen it since then. We just took a kernel update and it was fixed. All right, so the issue here with touch attempts is that the client we have player hits, like we're sending a message every time we actually hit somebody, but we don't have like that a player is actually attempting to attack. So if we put like a reliable message that like the user is now in attack mode, that's a lot more RPCs to our game server than we want, because right now we're just sending like animation state information that's unreliable. So we don't actually have a good indication that a player is attacking or not in an official way that our server can say. We could, at the end of a match, report this stat to the server from every client, but we also do not have a good place for that report to happen. We could have a replicated variable that we increment that we use, but we can't replicate from the client to the server. So we have to use RPCs in some way to do this. Amazon Linux is basically just like Amazon has its own fork of Linux for its own crap. It's pretty much Red Hat 5 based, Red Hat 6-ish. So if you know CentOS and you know Red Hat, you'll have no problems with Amazon Linux. But it's a little bit older in terms of its features. Like, you're not going to get all the Firewall D stuff. It's still on old init, like whatever service control shit is kind of old school stuff. So it's going to be more bare bones, I think, than more modern versions. So how the fuck are we going to do this? Like, we don't have a good variable. I mean, I can do an unreliable message to the server every time we do this with the number that we have. Is that the only way I can do this? Like, report touch attempt and have it be an unreliable RPC and we just set the value? I mean, why not? Can't really do much else. So we'll just report our touch attempts. It's going to be run on server. It's not going to be reliable, and we'll just pass our integer for each type. We'll just keep it. We'll just keep it simple. Fuck. None of this is even set up this way. Well, I'll just throw it in here. Trying to give Arch Linux a go. I have not used Arch Linux. So, good luck. This is what happens when you have client authoritative movement for this stuff. It's like, oh yeah, I'll just get the number of attacks. You're like, I have absolutely no idea how many attacks actually happened. Doesn't come with anything but a terminal. Well, the question would be, what are you trying to do with Linux? Just use Linux? Because they probably all have their different intended usages. So we got our touch attempts. Basically, we want to call on touch attempt every single time here. Okay, so you're basically just setting it up so you can compile something and run it on there. All right, that makes sense. Alright, so what we're going to do here is basically we'll do this on touch attempt stuff, and if this has authority is true, we don't do anything. If has authority is false, we're going to grab our player controller and report it. But we need to like get our touch attempts from this thing. Why is this pissed off? Couldn't find function. So we need the touch attempts, and that needs to exist on the player state. Alright, so I'm going to have this on touch attempt actually return a bool for if it was actually able to set it. And otherwise, we need to have like touch attempts be like something on this thing. Alright, so this will be so not going to be any of that. Blueprint, read, write. So we'll have touch attempts there, and we'll need to reset it. Do we already have something that resets everything? Like we have the player state, seamless travel, touch ball, assist player, ball hit, user data available, on team change, goal, get touch stats, reset stats. Alright. Maybe I should have a reset stats multicast. Let's go take a look at that. It's not perfect, but it's better than nothing, I guess. Because we don't have any idea on touch attempts. So let me think about this. So if the touch attempts is less than our player touches, well, that's not accurate. No, you can have ridiculous. Alright, so if touch attempts equals 0 and player touches is greater than 0 or ball touches is greater than 0, why don't we just set it like this? So we'll build in a little bit of anti-cheat there with if you report nothing, it'll just take the maximum value. So we have our multicast. It will actually run client server. Touch attempts will be set. So we can actually call this reset will work. We do call reset on this crap. I don't know. We'll see. See if it does what we want. I'm not super happy about it, but I don't see a very good way to, like, we can have a reliable message every time this guy, you perform an attack or something. But that seems real stupid. Like, a whole bunch more reliable messages does not seem like the answer. I'm also not super enthusiastic about the touch attempts versus like sliding. So it's like if you slide, that's a touch attempt. So that decreases your accuracy stat. Doesn't seem like it's been thought through completely. Because I know the reason why Adam wanted accuracy on here is he wanted to have it so that people who are just spamming the attack button get penalized somehow. But if you're getting penalized for like sliding, I mean, sliding's fun to do. It looks cool, and same with like punching and kicking. I don't know. Well, we should just implement it and see what the hell happens with it, and we can always go back and change it. I don't know. I don't find I think it's kind of a silly way to try to fix the issue with people just spamming attack. It's like the way to fix people spamming attack is to have a mechanic in there that discourages spamming attack. Having a stat track it and say like, well, you're just kind of being an ass. It's like an asshole tax. You know, like how tryhard were you in this match? You know, the stat. It's like you were super tryhard. It's like, okay, I guess. Okay, so if this returns false, then we will call server report touch attempts, and we will grab the touch attempts. So off of here. And what we're going to do is get the player state from a player proxy actor. So let's just hook up all these things. Oh god. Alright, so where do we actually start sliding? This is if we are not sliding, set sliding to true, do all the stuff, slide active accuracy right here. Defend. What What is this trash right here? Set Dashkin move an object, movement right and left. We've got a basic direction in there so you can lock your direction. Is that what's going on? It looks like we have a little bit of direction locking on it. Now poundability. This is where we actually start. Yeah. Celebrate and everything else. Alright, so theoretically we should have our touch stats, our touch attempts. Do we have any of these stats actually being reported right now? No. Okay. So let's see if this works. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It says it did it. So user stats. Touch attempts 13, wins in a row 0, losses 1. We had 2 punches, pop-ups. We had 2 ball touches, and 13 touch assists. I do not see score. I do not see anything else. We have ball touch attempts and everything else. The issue we have right now is I have not told it that I need to have it aggregate up the stats. So let's clear these databases again. And inside of our report, we need to set this thing to true for our report. So let's see, where's our request? Okay, so request set underscore create aggregate stats to true. Just looking for that W. So let's put that up. So we should see our win-loss, we should see our accuracy, and we should see our score overall. So let's actually win this one so that we get our positive score. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Error in fetching user stats, exception thrown for call. Select start from stats, user history, where interval ID is this, account ID is that, and yeah, okay, we don't have an and in the interval ID. So get that fixed. The other thing that we need to do that we haven't done yet is we need to verify that the accounts actually exist in the database before we write any of this trash in here. So how do we do that? Well, we grab the unique player IDs and we just select the count, and if the count doesn't match, then we throw them out? No. We need to actually select the account IDs from the database, I guess. Pretty much what you'd want with that is that the stats database has a key into the account database, and you can't actually do that. But the problem is the stats database is a separate database from the accounts database, so having that key is just not going to work. So we need to verify it ourselves before we actually shove this into the database. And we've got it so you have to be logged in. But as a game server, we do not know if somebody who is connected to us is actually logged in. We have none of that right now. So we want to take their account ID and we want to make sure that account ID exists. We'll do that later. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8. Call to report stats. Alright, looks like the stats reported. So let's grab our user stats. We have a score of 128. We have 2 goals. Some pop-ups. Our touch attempts was 17 because we had some last time. Wins in a row is 2. What's WL? Win-L? What the hell is it? WL? Win-loss percentage is 55? How is it 55? Wins divided by matches. So wins, we've got 2. Matches, we've got 2. It should be 100%. Alright, well, I'm just going to throw a breakpoint here. Alright, so we have profile has 2 wins. Matches is 5? So our win-loss percent is going to be 0.4, which is, that's correct. Win-loss stat value is going to be 40. Okay. Trying to look at this and actually make some sense at it. So win-loss is 57? What the fuck? No way. What? Oh, because that's our accuracy. Because I screwed up that thing. Alright, so that is accuracy. Let's look at our matches. We've got 2 wins and in plays is 3. So how in the hell is in play plus equals stat value? Well, let's just put a breakpoint in there and see what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Alright, so matches is 4. I didn't put any fucking breaks in my switch statement. Alright, that makes sense. That'll throw off all your stats. Rookie mistake. What the fuck are all the... Oh, right. Those are just all database connection pools. Alright, well, let's boot this guy up again. Let's scrub our stats. Good job, MySQL Workbench. No, not Steam. That's not a database. The SQL Workbench obviously can't load a single table from a database that's local. It's just, it's too difficult for that guy. It's just like, man, 100 rows is too many. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 8. And let's see, we've got stuff. So user stats. Okay, so our accuracy was 40, which makes sense. Touch attempts 10, ball touches 4, goals 1. Our score is 64. Our win-loss is 100%. So let's go to our user stats history. So our all-time is like that. Our daily is like that. Everything looks pretty good there. So let's go and take a look at our, let's go play another match. Let's punch a whole bunch of shit, do that, and let's lose a match. So if we pop this up, our win-loss is 50. We've played 2 matches. We've 1 loss in a row. We have 1 win, 1 loss. 0 wins in a row. Score of 71. And if we go over here, it looks like everything is the same as well. Alright, cool. So we have all of our stats written to our database. And it looks like it's working right. So let's actually pop up a dedicated server. I can't really even do that because this command line arguments aren't going to be passed through to that dedicated server. What a pain in the ass. Yeah, running a dedicated server through all this stuff sucks. But we don't have to run a dedicated server, we can run a listen server. That's what I need to do. Oh, this shit's gonna break real bad with that user ID being the account ID. So our UI is going to be totally fucked here. Maybe. Because we're going to be logged in, aren't we? Since we're logging in as a server. Let's see how it goes. But what we want to do is we want to make sure that our other account here, we actually call this set touch attempts, it needs to be called.